Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So I got a package in yesterday, so today I wanted to show everyone the newest addition to the collection here, CGC 9.8 comic book edition. I did buy this one off eBay, and an interesting book because I've never talked about this one for sure, and I only paid $50 for it, so there's kind of a lot I think we could talk about books like this that you could buy for pretty cheap in the CGC 9.8. So yeah, this one, in a way though, does really fit into my collection because it's a Batman book. And yeah, so a CGC 9.8 Batman book, pretty happy with the price. So yeah, let's get right into it here. The newest addition to the collection here. One pretty much off the radar. It's a Batman 440. So this is part one here of the A Lonely Place of Dying storyline. Kind of a popular late 80s storyline for Batman. And this is a book I'm really quite nostalgic for. Yeah, there was, I had my stepbrother had given me some Batman comics and some DC comics back in the day that were not in very good shape. And it was this book and the Batman 441, the book after this one, which I think is part 3 of A Lonely Place of Dying. I had those two books and kind of read them off and on. And yeah, really cool storyline on this one. So we'll get into some of the details. I did kind of break it down to 3 reasons why I did kind of pull the trigger and purchase this. But let's get into kind of the senses and the price. So there's 53 CGC 9.8s in the blue label out there. So not too many of them, kind of a 1 of 53 collector item is pretty cool. CGC 9.8 ratio is 61%. So of all graded copies, 61% are CGC 9.8. So not a very rare 9.8. Like you like to see that a lot lower for 80s books. Usually like in the 20% is when things start to get quite rare. This one not really rare at all. And you get that for books that aren't really key issues. Like there's not a lot of these being graded. So pretty much just people that really love the A Lonely Place of Dying storyline are sending in this book to get graded, and they probably kept it from like when they were a kid in perfect shape or something like that. So that kind of explains that 61% CGC 9.8 ratio. So I mentioned the price of $50 for this, with decent shipping to Canada because it was from a book in the United States. So, CGC 9.8s that aren't really key issues, $50 for this book I think is a decent price. I think if I waited for this in like an auction, you'd probably get this book for maybe $40 to $45. So, kind of just kind of splitting hairs, I guess, with the price here. But non-key issues that aren't really searched up by collectors, so people aren't searching non-key issues very much. They're searching for all the first appearances. So a lot of times in auctions, books like this could come up and go for like $32 or something like that in an auction in the CGC 9.8. I didn't really want to be that patient, and I saw this book, and with the kind of nostalgic connection for me, it just kind of made sense to pull the trigger at $50, which I think is a pretty fair price. I mean, I would imagine a sort of, a huge hardcore A Lonely Place of Dying fan would pay maybe $79.99 for this, possibly. But so I think $50 is kind of a decent price. So, this is a good example of what I would, I talked on one of our videos about when you buy comic books. Are you buying a collector item, an investment item, or a speculative item? And for me, this is like a collector item. Like I'm not going to really expect any type of investment return from this book. Like I don't think it'll skyrocket in price or anything. Just as being a Batman fan, yeah, Batman books are kind of one of the only books that I like to buy sort of obscure non-keys where I just really like the cover. I don't really do that too much with other superheroes. Batman's just awesome for me, and yeah, I really like this cover. This is a pretty underrated cover. So, some details about the A Lonely Place of Dying storyline. It's when Tim Drake becomes the next Robin, so it kind of outlines that whole saga. But at the beginning, Batman is he's really sad and depressed about Jason Todd's death. That happens in Batman 428. I got that one in the CGC 9.8, actually. I should have brought that one out just to kind of see it while I was talking here. But so he's really depressed from Jason Todd's death in this, and he's getting hurt all the time in battle. And, you know, he has to fight Two-Face in this. Is sort of one of the main villains, where Two-Face is back doing crime. So, and it kind of highlights what I really like about Batman books, I think, is, you know, they're a little bit darker. They're sort of more meaningful and real, and, you know, they deal with, like, dark issues and, like, people dying and depression. And whereas, you know, you read Marvel books, it's like, you know, Mary Jane's always, like, the perfect girlfriend, no matter what Spider-Man does. It's, like, kind of not as realistic. Like, some of the, like, Marvels are definitely sort of, most of them are written very sort of naively and for that time. Whereas Batman, I think, and Marv Wolfman, shout out to the story, the writer. And I think Batman comics are great for that, and that's why I really like Batman comics, to be honest. Yeah, they, you know, and his origin goes back to that too, where, you know, sort of a really, you know, important origin for Batman, and a sad origin, and that kind of, you know, he deals with a lot of, like, mental issues and stuff. Yeah, and in this one, yeah, he's depressed, and within that whole depression comes Tim Drake, and then he, you know, sort of figures out that Tim Drake's a strong, you know, I think he's a teenager, Tim Drake, in this, so a strong a strong kid and a possible next Robin, and he does become Robin in this Lonely Place of Dying. So, yeah, the three reasons here, we'll get into them. Yeah, first reason is the nostalgic connection for me. Yeah, just, you know, I mentioned my stepbrother giving me a couple of kind of reader copies of this when I was probably in my teenage years, I would say. Yeah, maybe when I was like 15 or so. So with that connection, the cover was really familiar to me, and yeah, leading into the second reason, the price. You know, $50 I think is fair, and it was a buy it now or best offer. Yeah, that's one thing to mention, because yeah, I'm pretty sure it was $79.99 or best offer. It might have been maybe $69.99 or best offer. So I ended up, you know, getting a deal done for $50, and I think shipping was like 17 something American, so that's not bad shipping actually for Canadian. Getting a package from the United States to Canada. And yeah, third reason here is I mentioned it fits right into my collection because it's a Batman book, and Batman books are kind of the only books that, like I said, I buy sort of non-keys because the cover is really cool. And another thing too, it is a George Perez cover, and I really am attracted just naturally to George Perez covers. And I think, yeah, this is kind of an underrated cover for sure, and for, yeah, $50, thought it was a pretty decent buy. And yeah, as far as the case too, and like just the condition of the comic book here, really happy with that. Yeah, the comic book nice and flat, pages are white, very high grade example, pretty nicely centered. Yeah, there's like, you know, if you want to be really picky, there's like a bit of the top cover showing on the back because it's not perfectly centered, but just a small amount. Like, it's, yeah, very nitpicky because it is really almost perfectly centered. But yeah, it was, you know, for a Batman book, to pay $50 for one that I kind of have a nostalgic connection to, a CGC 9.8, that's like perfect still too. And yeah, I know, like, the pride of ownership already is just having to look at this book quite a bit since I got it, just to, I think a lot of it has to do with having them when I was a teenager and not really realizing I really wanted the book until I saw it online and remembered the cover, and yeah, for $50, just it was worth it for kind of having that nostalgic connection from having this book when I was a teenager. But yeah, with 53 CGC 9.8s, yeah, this is definitely a collector item to me. Like I did mention there, you know, I'm not going to expect any investment gain, or there's not a first appearance to kind of speculate on or anything. So it really is just a cool collector item that I wanted to buy at a decent price. Yeah, I mean, $50 for a 1 of 53 in the CGC 9.8, I think isn't too bad. So concluding up here, yeah, I want to talk a little bit just about like these type of books that, you know, sometimes in an auction for non-key issues with really cool covers, you can get them for like $30, like in the 30s, and so some of those books, especially if you're budget constrained, that type of collecting could be a way to maybe go about it. You know, if you're really budget constrained and maybe you can only buy $50 books and you still want to buy CGC 9.8s, You can really hunt for cool covers that are non-keys, similar to this one. And yeah, there's some collectors that I talked to on Instagram too that are sort of doing that way of collecting, and buying some Batman Beyond cool covers just throughout the years for $32, $33, like again, really good deals on just non-key issues. And if you are really serious about it, coming at it from a real sort of investment perspective, I'm not sure if I would recommend that. A lot of times you just want to save up a little bit more and buy those iconic first appearances. But for someone budget constrained out there, it is kind of a cool way to grab a couple CGC 9.8s for really, really cheap. Yeah. So, yeah, it's glad I could show you the newest book here, Batman book, and I'm getting one more package in probably in the next couple of days here, so we'll get another unbox video too. But yeah, just a quick unbox video for today. If you haven't already, I invite everyone out there to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8 and hit the bell to get all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter too, and yeah, all the links are in the description below for all that. But yeah, newest edition of Batman 440, A Lonely Place of Dying, a series I would recommend to read too. Yeah, I actually was reading about half of this issue just online when I bought it, and I read it when I was a kid a little bit. But yeah, a really cool story to get into. That's somewhat overlooked too. Yeah, I think that A Death in the Family is the more popular, but this one being a little bit cheaper and just as cool. Yeah, Marv Wolfman really did a great job with this story. So, yeah, glad I could show you the newest addition to the collection. Yeah, really cool cover. I really like the cover. But thanks for watching today. Thanks for all the support. And if you do want to message me about comics or whatever it might be, message me on Instagram. Probably the easier way to kind of talk to me if you wanted to message me about anything. But thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you on the next one.